clicker.
Awesome, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Is this on? There we go. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. A lot of excitement in the room. That's a good thing. So welcome. My name is Christopher Jones. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Enterprise Technology Services, and we are here today to kick off this Workday Student project. We're going to meet the Alchemy folks who are going to be helping us implement this. We're going to hear a little bit from Workday as well, and then we're going to talk about how the project is structured and identify some of the leads, and then we're kicking things off, and a whole bunch of us are going right to discovery sessions. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Larry Simpson up to the stage to say a few words, get us going.
Good morning. How are you? Since my name and title is on the screen, I don't have to say who I am. I'm happy to be here. I had an interesting experience yesterday. I was talking with a colleague, and we were talking about Workday. And she said she got a call from a colleague asking, "What is Workday?" I was stunned. We have been planning for this day for a very long time. I have made Workday a permanent part of my major committee agendas. I have a group, for those of you who are from Workday and for those of you who may not be aware of how academic affairs is organized, there are two primary groups, and many members are in the room this morning. The one is the Academic Leadership Council, which consists of all of the chairs, assistant chairs, deans, vice presidents, and others who have related affiliations with academic affairs. And so a few months back, we said Workday Student will be a part of every agenda. And we have been at this for a long time. There are some very serious questions that are before us, and today is the start of our beginning to answer those questions about how we make this new system work on behalf of the students, many of whom pictures you saw. Our students are here, they are excited. Christopher talked about this being an exciting day. It is such an exciting day. I've been at Berklee for a long time, and I must tell you, the energy that I see amongst our incoming class, the energy that they bring, the intelligence that they bring, the creativity that they bring is infectious. And so I'm really pumped up about this year. I'm really excited about this project. I will ask that we have patience as we go through this endeavor because it will not be easy. We saw when we went through HCM and finance that it was not easy. We know that a lot of people were deeply stressed by going through those two projects. And you know what we kept hearing? Wait till we get to Workday Student. If you think that was stressful, wait until you get to Workday Student. And so I would encourage us to have patience, to be open, to not make judgments. As we've begun to prepare for this project, I've encountered people that want to cling to how things are and cling to how we do things because they say this is the best thing since, I don't know, I started to say sliced bread, but since we're in a tech group, maybe since the pager, I don't know. Do you all remember those? And so I ask that we be patient, that we be open, that we not pass harsh judgments, and that we think and expect the best of each of us, because that's what it's going to take to get us through this very, very difficult project. And so I'm happy to welcome our Workday colleagues here. You are going to be engaged with some of the best and brightest in all of higher education. You are going to encounter things you have never encountered in your Workday experience. And so I ask that you be open and listen as well to these brilliant colleagues that you have before you. So at any rate, I'm really, really happy to get this project started formally and officially. I look forward to the many, many meetings we're going to have over the next 4 weeks. And let's get this thing going and off in a really, really great direction. So good morning and thank you.
Kathy, please come on up.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here with all of you. I'd like to start out this morning first by thanking Christopher and David for their incredible leadership. This is such an enormously complex undertaking, and the management of all of the challenges, all of the issues, all of the personalities that are involved in this. I have been so inspired by your unflappable graciousness and collegiality and calm. So I want to start out by thanking you both, and also thanking everyone who is already working on this project, has put in so many, many, many hours, and those of you who are beginning to work on this project now. As I was driving in on 93 South for 2.5 hours this morning, I was thinking about seeing all of you and you know what this really means to us as a school. And my background is dance, so I always go to the physical metaphors and the dance metaphors. So if you'll forgive me for just a minute. There's a famous choreographer, Twyla Tharp. Some of you might know her work. And she's written a great book called The Creative Process. And in that book, she talks about how she makes dances. And what she talks about is that for her, the central structure and the central idea of the dance is what she calls the spine. And so what she means by that is it's the place that everything is coming from. It's not really visible from the outside, right? But if you think about your spine in your body, if your spine is not aligned, if your spine is not healthy, it's really hard to have other things functioning well, right? So it's sort of the centralized structure that's internal, not always externally visible, but it's creating the health of the whole organism. And I was thinking about this Workday project and thinking that what we're really doing with this project is creating the spine for the future of this merged institution. So we're really creating the structure that's going to allow us to be healthy, to be optimally functional, to be aligned as we move forward. And that's an incredibly exciting task. So again, I just want to thank all of you as we launch into this. I'm excited about this. I think we could not do anything more important for the future of this institution than the Workday project. So thank you all.
And Betsy, come on up.
Hi, everyone. I, too, was thinking a lot in the car this morning for the 2 hours that I was traveling in. So I just also want to thank everybody who's been thinking about this for a very, very long time. And I know many of you have been preparing for this around organizing the ways you do work, how we do work, how we engage with students before we even started thinking about the technology and how that was going to enable us. As I was sitting in the car, I don't usually have a lot of opportunity to talk about my own research here at Berklee, but it is relevant to this conversation. And I spent a couple of years trying to understand how educational ecosystems are designed to develop students' creation-driven mindsets. And interestingly enough, an ecosystem is comprised of every component part that comprises an experience for an organism, or in this case, a student. So I'm going to have a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you, and then I'll let you know why I'm asking it. So who here is an educational designer? Okay, I'm going to ask again. Who here is an educational designer? I'm going to ask again. Who here is an educational designer? 100%. Everybody raise your hand. Okay, we're going to do it again. Who here is an educational designer? Yes. Yes. Who here designs curricula? Who here designs the programs that comprise curricula? Who here oversees faculty who teach curricula? Who here designs the processes in which students can access their curriculum? Okay. Who here designs the processes where students can actually come here to access their education? Okay, you get my point. You are all educational designers, all of you. And Workday, what I love about the Workday project, because I'm an eternal optimist, is we are convening the core group of educational designers from the time that students want to come here from age 12, how we provide access to this experience for them, and how they get what they need and want when they're here as students. And you know, when you do research, you think you're going to have these insights that aren't obvious. Well, here's the obvious insight around designing educational ecosystems for students who want to be creative young people. Know the students you're designing for. What a shocking insight. Know the students you're designing for. That was one of the fundamental outcomes. And I have to share that there was some mismatching. And that's not because there's lack of effort, but that's because we're a multi-generational educational environment. This is an optional question, so you do not have to raise your hand. I'm not going to make you. Who's a baby boomer? Who's a Gen Xer? Who's a millennial? Who's a Gen Z? Nobody's a Gen Z. The Gen Zs are coming. They're the ones we need to design for. So we have deep experience around how we know an educational environment to be, but what we need to prepare for is some of us are 4 generations removed, some of us are 3, some of us are 2. So here, as educational designers, okay, I have 2 questions for you. Who is Gen Z? Who is Gen Z? Come on. These are the students that Workday is being designed for. Who is Gen Z? I have an answer, don't worry. Just throw it out. You know our students. Just throw it out there.
Students whose lives have revolved around technology.
Yes.
Without access.
That's right. Technology is an extension of who they are, right? What else? Yes. Instant information, easy access to answers that are knowable. Different than when we were in an educational environment. What else? Is central to everything, right? What else? Do they still need adults to mentor and counsel them? Yes, that's the constant. All right, so I just want to read for you just a brief description of Gen Z, and my whole team should have read this. So I'm looking at you, Michael Moyes. Gen Z is the most diverse generation in modern American history, and its members are attentive to inclusion across race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and gender identity. The Great Recession and its aftermath focused Gen Z on the value and relevance of a degree. The purpose of college for them is to help launch a career, and they will look primarily for academic and co-curricular programs to develop their skills and prospects. Growing up entirely in the era of the smartphone and social media means that Gen Zers see technology as an extension of themselves with respect to how they communicate, manage friendships, consume information, and learn. They expect a high-tech educational and campus experience, but don't want to live entirely in the virtual world. And they may need more support in the way of personal development than their predecessors did. So here's a challenge for us. What do students need and want from us in 2021 when this product is going to launch? So for me, that is the question I will ask in every meeting I'm in when we're making a decision. What do students want and need for us in 2021, knowing who Gen Z is and what they're expecting of us when they come in? And I think it is going to be a challenging process, as Larry said and Kathy acknowledged. But I do think what we know and what we've talked a lot about is students want to come to Berklee more than they've ever wanted to go anywhere else. They want to actually stay here and graduate with less debt. They want to have an engaging experience when they're here with all of you as educational designers and teachers, and they want to live their life with their music, dance, theater, artistic expression as a career that they can have. And so if we can look at Workday through that lens, I think we're going to be greatly successful. I know it's hard work and know that me and everyone else is going to support you, but I think our students are going to benefit from the hard work over the next couple of years. So thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. So today is a kickoff of sorts, but this is a marathon, and for a lot of you, it's not feeling like the beginning of the thing. And so I was thinking about this morning and figured I'd throw the Boston Marathon up there and try and map out where we are exactly on this mad dash. Back in 2015, we were starting to really suffer with a lot of business processes that had rapidly scaled up to launch Valencia, launch master's programs, so on, et cetera. And so we focused on data governance and then focused on aligning all of our applications on Salesforce across the institution. So as that was kicking off, of course, the merger was announced, and that's what precipitated our looking at, well, how do we bring the two institutions together into a single student system, which is, of course, what we're kicking off today. We went to our current vendor and said, what would you recommend we do? And they said, well, we recommend you'd spend millions of dollars re-implementing a system that was built before the internet was a thing and before mobile devices were a thing. And we said, well, that doesn't sound too great. And we were aware of Workday Student, which if you don't know, it is a very new product. And we said, if we're going to spend millions of dollars to implement a new thing, why would we not implement that? And they said, well, it wasn't ready yet. But that was 3 years ago. So we mapped out a plan to get to where we're at now. We implemented Workday HCM this January. We implemented finance this June. There's been a lot of work on bringing scholarships and financial aids from both institutions together and then optimizing that work, which is key to us being able to do this. And so now we're in Wellesley. And I bet a lot of you know better than me what that really means. We're not at the foot of Heartbreak Hill, but that's coming. That's maybe halfway through this, and we can talk a little bit more about when the analogy might make sense. But I want to, in particular, thank Kathy back and thank all of you who have gotten us to this point, because these projects were massive. And I think halfway is about right. Workday Student is much bigger than any one of them, but the last 3-4 years have been a huge lift for some of us. And then, of course, with Workday Student, we had Workday on site last fall and started to really dig into, okay, is Workday ready yet? Is it live? And now there's several schools, including several in the Boston area, that are fully on it, so it's good to go. But we started to look at ourselves and said, are we ready for this? And we recognize that there's a lot of differences between the college and conservatory that are different for no reason other than they are. Probation's a good example. We did probation differently at both institutions. We've now landed on how we're going to do probation in Workday. It's not the same as what either institution was doing before. In some cases, we chose the college's route, some cases the conservatory's route, some cases we're still trying to figure it out. But all this year, a lot of you have already been working on this effort. But today is the kickoff for diving into this with our implementation partner, Alchemy. And so before we introduce Alchemy, though, I want to talk about our folks and how this project is going to unfold. So the way the work is going to be divided up, there's a recruiting and admissions team, there's a financial aid and scholarships team, student financial services. Those are all somewhat straightforward as far as understanding what the scope of that work is. complex. I think everybody knows we're using Salesforce as our enrollment platform, but we've got to integrate that with Workday. That's going to be a big lift. Financial aid, keeping power fades, but that's really got to integrate with a whole bunch of stuff. Workday and our payment systems, several other systems. Then on the student side, academic foundations, student academic services, we're still trying to get some clarity on that. We're not always going to know exactly which of those. And in general, academic foundation is going to be the team that's looking at the overall structure of the organization and then parts of the student experience that are independent of how the curriculum plays out. And then records and curriculum is one team within the Workday world. We've got it broken out into two. And this is in some degree because we are still answering some of those questions about how we want to align college and conservatory. But also we're looking at some college processes that we've left unchanged since the 90s and thinking, does this achieve the outcome that Betsy did a great job of describing? So all of these leads, can you wave your hand? We've got a lot of them in the room today. These are the key folks to talk to about these different functions. If you're not sure who to go to any one of them. You can come to me. We'll figure it out. This next 4 weeks of discovery, we're going to be learning, Alchemy is going to be learning a lot about us, but we're going to be learning a lot about each other as well. We also, and this was kind of a lesson learned from how we went through HCM and finance, we kicked off those projects. We didn't have a lead for Valencia identified, but it became pretty clear we needed one. And so with this project, we have also identified leads for each of our different learning environments. These folks are the ones who are helping us ensure that we've got somebody representing each of these portfolios or each of these learning environments in all the right projects. They're not the ones doing it all. They're not the decision makers over everything, but they are the ones helping us make sure for each learning environment, we've got the right people plugged in. So we've got the work streams trying to always think, do we have the right people, pulling them in, and then we've got these folks helping push the right people in. So I think we've got some of these leads in the room too. Can you raise your hands if you're in the room? Awesome. If you have not met those leads yet, you can look them up in Workday and see what they look like. That's nice. Because I did not put together fancy slides with pictures like Alchemy brought. But on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay. Lindsay, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay Smith. I am the lead project manager on the Alchemy side. I've already been working with a lot of you and will continue to meet folks this week. And I'm sort of hunkered down over at the Hilton for the next 4 weeks. So, come on by, we'll get a drink, we'll get dinner together. But super excited to be here this morning. Brought some of the Alchemy team here with us as we get things kicked off. I've been in education technology for about 15 years now. I've worked with some really big schools that have hundreds of thousands of students and some smaller schools. I've worked with public schools, private schools, specialty schools, always with the goal of helping them to implement some piece of software that ultimately does exactly what you're trying to do, which is drive a really rock star, awesome student experience. So super blessed and grateful to be working alongside you guys here today. So I've been working a ton with Christopher and Karen and Maria and so on and so forth, and I will continue to do so, working to coordinate things, both behind the scenes and out with you folks as well. I've brought a couple of other members today that I'd like to bring up to just introduce from kind of the leadership perspective on the Alchemy side of the house. So we'll start with Dave, and if Joey and Jay-Z want to make their way up here as well, I'll have them do some brief introductions, and then we'll kick into a little bit more about Alchemy.
Thank you, Lindsay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dave McGregan. I'm the delivery director with Alchemy. My responsibility with the company is I oversee all of our projects. For your project, I'm the executive sponsor as well. I have about 28 years in higher ed technology, so I've been to about, to put it in context, I've been to about 300 schools in 46 states over a 28-year career. So there isn't anything I haven't seen or done well or done poorly. So bring all that experience to try to help you guys. I was with a college president a few years back, and he said, a project like this is like putting a new roof on your house. He said, there's never a great time to do it, but there's a right time to do it. And so I think this is, just listening to your leadership, this is the right time for you all to be embarking on this project. You've got a lot going on. You're bringing institutions together. A lot of business process change, so it's just the right time. So on behalf of everybody at Alchemy, we're very, very, very pleased that you've selected us. We're humbled and honored to be a partner with you today. And I've got a few things I'll talk about on a couple of subsequent slides, but definitely like for my colleagues to introduce themselves as well. And thank you for having us.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joey O'Rourke. I've been in higher ed for about 7 years now. Did things completely unrelated to that beforehand. Talk to me later. I'll tell you about some experiences. Although little bit of a common thread is my undergrad major and my very first job was music related. So loving that I'm here. So a little bit more about me, just quickly. I've been doing Workday in some way, shape, or form since about 2014 now. And the prior institution I worked at prior to coming to Alchemy here was actually one of the original design partners for students. So I've been in that ecosystem for quite some time, relatively speaking. As we mentioned earlier, Student is a new product, so it's a little bit of an infant still, but I've been cradling it the whole time. I'm really excited to be helping out on this project. In particular, I'm going to be working very closely, or I should say I have been working very closely with Lindsay as we've been in the plan stage of this project, getting things rolling, because I've been doing this for longer than most, trying to help make sure we got a sound project plan together, got a sound tenant management plan together, helping to advise along the way. So you'll be seeing me pop in from time to time. Lindsay, though, is our fearless leader. And I just want to say thank you so much to the Berklee team for having us be part of this journey with you. I'll talk a little bit more later about kind of what that journey is going to look like and why it is a little bit more complex perhaps than some of those earlier projects. But anything that's this big is going to be super impactful. You're going to see a huge, huge, huge amount of change at this institution, and it's going to be for the good. So very excited again to be part of this, and very grateful again to be doing this with you here at Berklee.
Good morning, everyone. Right? That's pretty good. Good morning. My name is Jonathan Zaretsky. If I stand over here, will I get in trouble by the audio visual people that I'm not on the microphone? I like to walk around. Hi, everyone. I'm Jonathan Zaretsky. I'm a student deployment strategist here at Alchemy. A little bit about myself. I've been in Workday Student since the very beginning. But prior to joining Alchemy, I came from Broward College. So I was one of the institutions that was writing sticky notes and saying, we need this for the system to work. We need this for the system to work. Fast forward, I was with Broward. We were the first ones ever in the world to launch anything a part of Workday Student. Academic foundation, admissions, student recruiting, curriculum management. After that, I joined Alchemy, where we actually brought our first 3 Alchemy customers live. So that's Bentley University, which is right down the street, Wellesley College. So I was excited to see the marathon where we ended in Wellesley. So that was kind of cool. Definitely spent a lot of time in Wellesley. And California College of the Arts. Just so you know, myself, aside from working at Alchemy, I'm also a member of the faculty at Florida Atlantic University. So I teach cybercrime, criminal justice technology, so I'm all into all that state-of-the-art, how to protect your students' data, stuff like that. So if you ever get me into a security conversation and I go on for 6 hours, just know that's where my passion lies. The only thing I'm upset about this morning is Joey is a phenomenal it's a bass player.
Ukulele.
And a singer. Ukulele. Close. And I told her it would be awesome for her to sing or play. So we're going to have to try to convince her either this week, the next 4 weeks, or the next 2 years to get her to do some sort of a show. So I'm letting everyone know so you all are a part of this commitment of mine to get her to perform. We're really excited to be here. I'm really excited to deep dive into Berklee, understanding your specific requirements, what makes you unique, and how you can leverage Workday Student to kind of help your customer, which is your students. So looking forward to working with you. Thank you for having us today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So, like you, we are broken down by work streams as well. So quite a few members of the Alchemy team here. Folks want to just do a little wave. The Alchemy team. Oh, there we go. Okay. they weren't listening to me. I could tell. It's okay, you know. So within all of our work streams, you'll notice that each one has someone who's bolded. That's the work stream lead. So this person in general has been working in higher ed for at least a decade, maybe more, and they're really going to be on point for the work stream. We also pair that person with a support person like the work streams here, so there's at least 2 people assigned to each and every work stream, if not more. The other thing we do is like Joey on the PM side, being in that advisor role, we also have advisors on all of the work streams. And so these folks, like Joey, like Jay-Z, were really in Workday Student from the beginning. So many of them worked at universities originally that helped with the sticky notes and the planning. Some of them worked for Workday. So they'll come in ultimately. You'll see them over, you know, the weeks and months as we're getting started. They do some of the heavier lifting when we get into some more, you know, Berklee specific stuff or intricacies where we really need a little bit of that deeper advising role. So no need to memorize everyone up here. I know some of you have started to meet folks as we've kicked off integrations and data conversion and some of the other work streams. So we'll make sure that you get a copy of this slide, but you'll start to meet some of our team this week and in subsequent weeks as we bring more and more of our folks on site here. So I'll turn things back over to Dave. I just want Dave to just share just a little bit about Alchemy. I know some of you have met us previously, but some of you are newer to us. So I'll let Dave share a little bit about, you know, who we are as a company.
Thanks again, Lindsay. I appreciate it. They let me speak twice, and that's all. Then I sit quietly in a corner. For those of you who don't know, Alchemy, we are the only Workday partner who's 100% focused on Workday and 100% focused on higher education. We're very excited to be that person, have that profile in our business. That means we wake up every day, try to figure out how to make Workday HR, HCM, payroll, financials, and student work for colleges and universities. So we're very, very narrowly focused, and so we can go very, very deep into your requirements and the kinds of folks that you are. We're the fastest growing partner in the ecosystem, which means we're doing pretty well. We want to do really well for you, because if there's one thing I learned in my time in higher education, if we do a really good job, you guys are going to tell all your friends. And if we don't do such a good job, you're going to tell all your friends, right? So we want to make sure we do a really, really good job for you all. To put it in just some level of perspective, last year we screened about 7,000 candidates to be alchemists. We interviewed about 750, and we hired 80. So we look for just the right people who are like you all and who are like us, that have a passion for higher education, love what we do, and are committed to making the lives of our students, our faculty, and our staff better. Our leadership team is very unique. So our CEO and founder is a gentleman named Mike Duffield. He helped start and build Workday. He was employee number 8. His father's the chairman of the board at Workday and started that company. So he decided that the best thing he could do for higher education was to build a company focused specifically on deploying it. So he started Alchemy. He branched out from a very, very successful career with Workday and started our company. He brought with him a really talented team of leaders. We have over 9 years of experience in Workday, mostly working with Workday on our leadership team. So that positions us really well to be a great partner with Workday, because I'll tell you, if you're not a great partner with Workday, deploying student is very difficult. So we bring all of that to this project and to our experience with you all. So I wanted to share just a little bit about that, so you had a little context for kind of who you're partnered with and who we are and why we're really excited to be a part of this project. Do I have a next slide? Oh, great. Yeah, so here are the projects that we've done so far. So we've been actively in the implementation business for about almost 2 years. We've been in business about 3. The first year, we were putting up chalkboards and building office space and hiring a few people. Jonathan was one of our first deployment personnel. There are 4 customers live with student. So we talked about, I think Christopher said that Workday Student is new, right? There's a whole lot of customers or schools that are deploying it. There are 4 live. Alchemy's taken 3 of those live. They're on this chart: Wellesley, Bentley, and California College of the Arts. There are a couple of other student customers that are in flight right now. So right down the road, We've got a project that we're literally starting off as we speak at another art school, Rhode Island School of Design, just down in Providence. I'll actually be there in a couple of weeks for that kickoff. Let's see, Babson, right down the road, Babson University, Simmons University, and a couple of others probably to be announced soon. So we're very excited about that. You can also see that on the top half of the slide, we've done a fair amount of work with HCM and financials. And we actually have an HCM expert in the room with us today. He didn't get announced earlier, but Gordon, just pop your hand there, right? Gordon's here to take a look at your HCM project just to make sure that all the things that you guys did in that project line up with a successful student project as well. So we have a broad reach across higher education. As you can see from our customer base, after a year and a half, we got a pretty good footprint. So, Lindsay, I think that's all I had. Thank you again. They're going to make me sit in the corner now, but I'm delighted to be here, and I'll be meeting you all over the next couple of days. Thank you.
I kind of wish that I had brought like a giant cane that I could have, done the choke off with, but I'm sans cane. So last little bit about Alchemy that I did want to share is our core values. To Dave's point, we're really meticulous when we're hiring folks, and we hire folks based on these 5 values. We do performance reviews based on these 5 values, and this is really how we go about determining what are the behaviors of an alchemist. So, teammates, as we begin interacting with you more and more, I hope that you come to find that we not only come shoulder to shoulder with one another as alchemists, that we really consider you guys to be an extension of our team, and so we will be coming shoulder to shoulder with you as well. Customer focus. I feel like every company in the world says this, right? And sometimes it's a lot of lip service, to be frank. And I've worked at companies where I felt like this was a lot of lip service. The leadership team and all 150 of us have worked really hard to cut the red tape, not have all the corporate bureaucracy that often goes on, so that our folks are really empowered to do what's best on behalf of our customers each and every day. Entrepreneurs. So we hire for people that are creative, that can think outside the box, that love to solve problems. And I hope that you'll find that each and every one of us is an entrepreneur at heart. This is one of the biggest things we look for when we're hiring. Tenacious. So we're going to come in here and work really, really, really hard alongside of each and every one of you. If there's a problem and it's 5:01, you will not find us running from the building because some sort of magical bell has gone off. We're going to stay and work through that with you. And then finally, genuine. So it's really important on behalf of all alchemists that we're open, honest, transparent with each of you. Even when there's hard news to be delivered, we're going to work really, really, really hard to always be genuine in all of our interactions with each of you. So that's a little bit about Alchemy. We're obviously learning day by day more about Berklee, but I wanted to share a little bit more about Workday as well. So first and foremost, you're a customer of Workday, and as I'm sure many of you learned through your implementation with Full Platform, what Workday doesn't do is sell and run. So they sell and then they support you throughout the entire implementation. And so there are very specific points in time where Workday will be engaged with you, and we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. But I did want to just briefly do a small introduction because the gentleman from Workday who has been assigned to work with us in the coming weeks and months is here with us today. So I'd love to let Chris Adams come up and share a little bit about his role as a delivery assurance manager for Berklee.
Good morning, everyone. Awesome opening remarks. I appreciate it. Hey, Vinny. My ego is not nearly as big as this photo, so I don't know. It is what it is. But so yes, I'm from Workday. My name is Chris Adams. I am a delivery assurance manager, certified for that. But I'm also a principal engagement manager. So actually run some other projects that are Workday primed for other institutions as well. I've been with Workday for about 2 years. I've been following the student product actually a little bit more than that. Since we're doing kind of previous history confessionals, before Workday, actually, I worked for another company that actually helped support Berklee on other initiatives in your legacy system. So I may have had my hands in updating some of your registration subroutines inside of colleagues. So hopefully your ensembles are working properly. So, and if not, we'll fix them in Workday. So there you go. But as a delivery assurance manager, my role is to help the project team essentially work with Workday's delivery assurance model, making sure that anything that goes through the process of the implementation, that everything works the way that we expect it to work. There's various checkpoints throughout the project, as Lindsay mentioned, that are whether they're project-based or product-based or technology integrations, things like that. I'll help coordinate those particular those events and those meetings. So definitely have some skin in the game here. I'm not going to take up much more of your time. Workday is extremely excited, obviously, to have Berklee as a customer. We're very excited to see this application get configured for your use and to see how it all works for the entire institution. So I'm here to help support anything that I can through that venture. So excited for Berklee, excited for Workday, and extremely excited for Alchemy. You have an all-star cast here, so you guys are going to do great. So that's it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. I'm going to invite Joey back up to share a little bit more.
All right, and I know a few of our speakers at the beginning kind of touched on this, but I want to go just a little bit more in depth. And who doesn't love a visual to help kind of wrap your head around what it is that we're going to be doing? So yes, HCM and financials are big, impactful projects. They're complex. There's a lot of nuances in terms of timing. For example, financials had to go live with your fiscal year. HCM and payroll would have had to go live on a quarter start. With student, you've got a lot more nuances. So we are timing, and you'll kind of see this a little bit later on when I think Jonathan's going to talk about your timeline. But our whole project is timed around key activities that occur in an academic year. So for example, if we're going to be going live with student financials, we need to make sure that that's happening in time for billing. When we're going live with student records, we need to make sure that that's going live in time to support registration. So there's a lot of constraints that we have to work around when we're building out a project timeline like this. So you'll see some situations maybe at some point where, well, why don't maybe we want to take an extra week on this. Well, if we take an extra week on this, then that means everything else has to push a week, and if that pushes a week, then we're past our day for registration, and oh no, what are we going to do? So I just want to make everybody aware, and this isn't too scary, just reality check, keeping it genuine, that we've got a lot of constraints that we need to work within as we are deploying this project. And we're not just kind of pulling out of thin air, when things are going to happen. We're really basing that around, again, these key events, the academic calendar, that different elements of the system have to be live in order to support. The other thing I'll mention is complexity. And a couple ways you can look at this, but one of my favorites is just how many different people and offices need to be involved. I mean, look at this room. Full of people that are going to be engaged in this project. And I'm sure that there's more people who are going to be supporting that might not have been able to be here in person today. We've got involvement not just from, say, a finance office and an HR office. We've got involvement from those offices, we're going to need to, but also financial aid, admissions, registrar's office, student financial services, academic advising, institutional research at some point we'll have to loop in. So we're touching a ton of different elements of your institution, not just a couple here or there. And being able to keep all those different moving parts kind of moving together in sync, in harmony, if you will, just had to do it, is not an easy feat. So this project is going to be a big lift for many of you, if not all of you in the room, and possibly others, besides the folks that are here today. So we don't want to, minimize that at all. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to make such a huge positive impact on your institution that hopefully when this is all done, 2021, you look back and you're like, oh God, all right, we're done. This is awesome. I'm going to share one other thing. So kind of related to that, a student implementation is unique in that your customer, at the end of the day, not just your back office administrative users, not just your employees, it's also your students. So this project is going to touch virtually your entire campus community in some way, shape, or form. You're going to have administrative staff that have to do things in the system on a day-to-day basis as part of their job function. You're going to have faculty in the same position. They're going to have students that are just, trying to live their life, get their degree, that are going to be interfacing with this system for registration, for advising, to see what their financial aid packages look like, to pay their bills. So this is going to be, I can't say it enough, a really impactful project. And it will, let's again be genuine, it's going to be hard at times. It's going to be, a lot of work. But just keep in mind that you're not just doing it for you and your office, or you're not just doing it for IT to have, just one system to manage instead of a couple. You're doing it to serve your entire campus community and arguably, especially, your students. So we want to try to help you put together, or I should say configure a system that's going to serve them as best as it possibly can. Turn it back over to Lindsay.
Thanks, Joey. So I know many of you have seen this before or maybe talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to give Jonathan a chance to just at a very high level talk about specific to Berklee, your timeline and the deployment strategy that we'll be taking here. Jonathan?
All right, so hopefully everyone can hear me. Can you hear me in the back? Hello. Perfect. So this is your timeline. There are a couple of things to call out with your timeline. One thing we notice in higher ed is everyone talks to each other. So when you look at this timeline and you compare it to, let's say, a Bentley timeline or a Wellesley timeline or this, every timeline will look different. The reason why they will all look different, I will tell you up front, is we do the timeline based on whatever is needed for your specific institutional needs and what's best at the time when we start the planning for your specific project. And this is what we ended up. Berklee had specific requirements for when they wanted to target to go live. Workday has specific requirements for how to deploy the system. And Alchemy has best practices associated to how to deploy the system. All of these together is what I present to you up on the screen. If you look at the bottom left, you'll notice plan, architect, configure, prototype, test, deploy. For those of you on the HCM or financial side, you're going to say, wow, those sound very familiar from our deployment there. Workday has a proven deployment methodology. It follows these following steps. Similar to HCM and financial, student will follow those same exact steps. They've been proven. If you structure your deployments in a certain way, it ensures that you don't have any gaps, everyone gets a chance to voice, you have a chance to discover. Right now is what we call the whiteboard stage, right? Everyone has a dry erase marker, they're able to go up, you're able to erase, you're able to redraw, you're able to redo it. That's really our plan, discovery, and design, right? We're trying to understand who Berklee is. If we look at the left, you can see that we've kind of started the whole planning stage in July. We're in September, we're really moving into architect. But if you notice, it's kind of shaded because it's really architect, configure, and prototype. So our team's going to learn something, they're going to understand it, they're going to go in the system, they're going to configure it, they're going to say, hey, did we understand what you said correctly? No? Okay, it was dry erase, let's go back to the drawing board and build it again. Hey, is this correct? Yes, that's perfect, don't mess with it. All right, let's sign off, let's lock it in place, let's put it in a vault, put it in a safe, let's put it underwater, 5,000 feet, whatever it is. But let's lock it in place so we can move on. A lot of the configurations in Workday Student build on top of each other. So if you notice, the way we structure some of the conversations is we're going to bring everyone in the room when we start talking about those foundational components, when we start building that structure of the house. I love Dave's analogy of the house, right? You can build a roof, you can put a new roof on, but if you don't have a strong foundation, that's really going to change the specs of your roof, right? When you're building a house, do you really need 3 or 4 kitchens? And I always steal this from you, but I love this one. No, you want one kitchen, right? But the kitchen's got to work for everyone, right? If some of you need a toaster or something like that, and that's what this all takes into account. During our configure and architect phase, it's really going to be a lot of back and forth. It's an iterative process. Our team's going to capture requirements, they're going to make suggestions based on best practices, and they're going to push back a little bit. All of this will occur during this time. The main thing is that we always are moving forward, right? So we have certain goals and certain objectives based on the project plan that these ladies put together working with your team. And Joey said it correct. If we skip or we fall back 1 week, it could have major repercussions. There's really 3 timelines associated with the Berklee project. So there's this, which is your deployment timeline. So this says how we're deploying the system, right? We're going to hold something called the deployment strategy session in October 30th.
where we're going to build a deployment strategy timeline. And this is talking about when we're deploying. Our deployment strategy is when we plan on turning on that functionality for your student. So we may push everything you may see in June for recruiting, admissions, student academic services, records, and folks in the room are saying, wait, that's a horrible time for us to move records, or this is this. We may be moving the configuration, but just like a move into a new home, just because you move all the boxes doesn't mean you have to unpack them all at the same time. So there's strategies associated to each, and we're going to deep dive into each of these. But I like to call that out up front and set those expectations, because I know, and I see people shaking their heads in the room, they see the dates and they're like, wait, this doesn't make sense, that's why. Another call out is if you see that pen and paper in October timeframe, this is something we call our mock semester. So Workday used to call it mock registration. We used to use the same terminology, but it's really more than just registering students, right? We want to test the entire semester process end to end. So what we ask is, and we try to partner with you to bring real students in and have real students test the system, right? Before you're going to go live with your large population, bring in real students, bring in real faculty, make sure they're going in the system, registering for classes. Is their financial aid packaging correctly? The way Christopher said it is absolutely correct. We're going to be integrating with third-party systems such as PowerPace. Is that integration coming over and bringing over the data? What happens if a student drops a course? Does that recalculate their package to make sure it's accurate, right? We're going to test all of that during that time period, okay? We may determine during our deployment strategy, we may need 3 weeks to allow students to test, 2 weeks, 1 week. Whatever we're comfortable with, that's what we're going to build it. And we're going to define what those measures of success are. Some institutions, I always like to leverage this, at Bentley, they said, their registrar said, I need 100% accuracy on a student transcript. There's no wiggle room when it comes to a student transcript. Why? Because if you're a student and you attended here and you plan on rerunning your transcript, you're not going to want to see a C go to a D, right? If you earn that C, you're going to want to make sure it was a C. Now on the reverse side, if you had a C and you can get an A, that would probably be good. But we try to ensure that whatever you achieved and you received, you're getting the same thing. And we test that and we build that into the structure along that time period. So I like to just call that out. You'll also notice a production support model. So similar to Workday, they sell you, they're with you the whole way, they're with you when you move to production. Alchemy's the same way. So we're going to partner with you through your deployment and after you go live. So we're still working with Wellesley and Bentley on enhancements because the student product is never ending enhancing. That's really the vision of Workday, right? It's a product built for the future. They're always getting updates, they're always getting new features. A lot of the features are simple plug and play. Some of the features you have to configure, but we're going to partner with you to ensure that you're getting the latest and greatest based on your specific timeline. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the milestones because they're up there, and I promise I'm going to go too far in the weeds. That's fair. Should I open up for questions or no? No questions. Okay. So this works. Thank you so much. You're gonna see this a million more times, and we're gonna deep dive into this. And if you have any questions off to the side, so I don't get in trouble, I'm getting the hook. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Christopher, is there anything that you'd like to add in regards to the deployment timeline as well?
No, you called out the mock registration, and I did want to make sure that was on everybody's radar. When that comes, by that point, we should have all of the different test scenarios, all of the different exceptions that you've seen all lined up so we can go through and make sure that when we go live, you've got a tool that does exactly what you need it to do when the students show up in your office, so that you're not saying, oh, I should have thought of this and built that. That's just the main key thing I wanted to talk about. So we talked a little bit about the timeline, the merger, the need to re-engineer things. The real reason we're doing this, of course, is to create a high-quality, engaging student experience. We have some guiding principles set up that we're going to achieve this by using Workday as the self-service platform that it is. We'll be smart about that. We'll make decisions about, as Betsy said, students still need advising, so we've got to make sure and get that right, that mix right. We're going to align our administrative processes across programs. I mentioned probation earlier. There are, whatever support we need to make sure that the conservatories program maintains its separate curriculum experience. Whatever support we need to make sure that online students who have different needs than Gen Z get the support they need, we'll do. But as much as possible, we want to align because that will streamline, simplify, reduce costs, reduce complexity. And that's the last point there about our business processes. So for those of you on HCM and finance, you've seen these guiding principles before. But those of you who are new coming onto it for student, Our four main business process guiding principles are these. We're going to take the best practices from higher ed. Alchemy's got a really neat model. Every school they've deployed, they build into the starting point what all schools do consistently and give us that to start. It's not to say we use it. We want to use it if we can. It's a starting point. Starting point better than a blank slate. That's how we're going to get through this bomb run so fast. Simplifying, I'm going to show you a slide in a minute that's really just going to say everything that needs to be said about that. Student experience, I think Betsy got that one awesome. And then thoughtful and timely decisions, I think we also covered that point. So, when we first started to talk about how we improve the student experience before the conservatory was even announced, this slide was put together after going out and interviewing how everybody was doing everything. This slide represented 3 years ago all of the systems. The green are all fully manual processes. There's different buckets of third-party systems. Every single one of these bubbles represents a different student experience. I want to declare my major. We have to learn this new software called Submittable. I want to go make an appointment. Well, you learn this new software to book an appointment with this office that's different than this office. Our goal is to get to here. Vastly reduce third-party systems if we can. We want to get rid of Submittable for declaring a major. Unless we need it, unless for curricular reasons we have to have it, in which case we'll keep it. But we want to go through all of those processes and get down to a simple, well-architected, holistic experience where the student doesn't have to relearn how to deal with us administratively every time they go to a different office. That's the main goal. So don't worry about the specific bubbles on here. We know we're using Workday. We know we're using Salesforce. We know we're using Power Fades. The rest we're going to go through with all of you, and we'll make those decisions together. But our goal is to get here. And then we also have a set of guiding principles about how we collaborate. As soon as we wrap up this kickoff, we're going to ask the leads to stick around and dig into some of the logistics of how we're going to make that happen. But every Workday meeting that's booked is on a Google Calendar that the entire community can see. Every meeting is recorded. It can be shared if you can't make it, or if you're not on that core team but still want to hear the conversations. We're trying to do this very, very transparently. Respect is another one, because this will be hard. You will find yourself repeating something and getting frustrated that you had to repeat it because you already told somebody else. That other person is thinking about a whole different set of priorities, and maybe it will take 2 or 3 times. Be patient with each other. And then communication. If we're not communicating enough, let me know. You can come to me, any of the leads for sure as well. We're still trying to work out the right way to communicate with student and working with senior leadership to get all that down and figure out exactly when we also start needing to engage students, not just yet. But we'll talk more about that as well. And then finally, to wrap it up, our next steps. So if you don't know, this does begin 4 weeks of discovery. All those work streams that we listed earlier with all the leads, and several hundred of you are going to be getting together throughout the next 3 weeks and spending some time with a whiteboard. As soon as those discovery sessions end, then each of those workstream teams is going to start having weekly meetings where we start to dig into how we're going to actually configure things. That will include integration design. So all of the conversations about, do we keep Submittable, for example, we'll be doing in the next 4 weeks, so that as soon as that wraps up, we can start to configure both Workday itself and the third-party systems. That's going to be a unique challenge for us compared to, I think, some of the other schools that have gone live because of the merger. There are a lot of student offices that have been living with parallel systems, a lot of pain for a long time. The big example that impacts a lot of folks, especially in academic affairs, is our space management tool. The college uses EMS, the conservatory uses 25 Live. We got to pick one, probably EMS, but we're going to let the right people make that final decision. And then we're going to have to re-engineer that system to support the conservatory and the college, which is not the case now. Alchemy doesn't do that. We're going to have to do that. We'll bring in other help if we need it. All of that work, though, that design is going to kick off in October as soon as this discovery ends. And then Jay-Z mentioned that late October, and we did nail down the date, October 30th, some Alchemy leadership will come back on campus and meet with our leadership and really then start to map out when we will actually deploy each of these different functions, which is different than that timeline. So I did burn through those slides, and this is the last slide, so we do have a few minutes if anybody has any questions. Pretty straightforward? Or maybe just too much like a fire hose? Anything? Going once? Going twice? We will end this meeting early. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. So if you are one of the leads, if you could please stick around for a few minutes, we're going to dig into some logistics.